Welcome to the Cattywampus podcast. I'm Kurt Driscoll, your host, and I'm here today with a good friend of mine, Luke Crawford. Man, thanks for making it up.
Absolutely.
From in the city, heading back home. So you had to fill up the oxygen tank to get up outside the perimeter to get back up here or not. But I was sitting there trying to think while we were talking how we met. I think it was the Hargraves. So a friend of my wife's and ours. You had got us connected up, man, and we had several months back and forth trying to coordinate our calendars. But when we got together,
we hit it off.
We hit it off. So it's
and then remember we realized too that my mom for two of my brother's weddings had bought crosses from Vision Warriors.
Oh, and for your weddings, yeah.
For I guess not at my wedding, but then my mom was like, "Oh, I know him. That's who I bought the crosses from." And I was like, "Wow, what a small world!"
It is a small world, but we figured out a couple of things that we love the Lord. Mm-hmm. We have a lot of the same views in just how we navigate through life. We love blowing stuff up, shooting things, and so it's great. And then the other thing, man, is that a lot of people say there's certain things that they like to do, but you were talking to me about young life and how you love getting engaged with individuals and just really showing up and being present. Mm-hmm. And you took, I connected you up with my oldest son, Knox.
Yeah.
And man, he's still talking about like, Mr. Lou, we took out here and then we did this and then we blew this up, we shot this. And it's like, you give anybody a fully automatic gun and let them shoot it. It's pretty exciting, even if you don't, just to experience the first time. Someone's gun lover. But thanks for being here.
Oh, absolutely.
And I know today that we've shared a lot of different stories and journeys. Mm-hmm. And I know today you're still in the middle of this. Mm-hmm. So first of all, I want to thank you and your wife both for being willing to, it's one thing to talk about, it's another thing. And it's completely different to be willing to be how vulnerable and transparent it is to go through this. So man, I'm really humbled and honored that you're willing to go there today. So
absolutely.
So thank you for being here. So, when we look at Cattywampus as a term, it's like at that point in your life where things are askewed and not going at all the way that you thought they should or would, or you were planning on. What can you tell of yours? Like, what is that moment for you right now?
Yeah. So right now I would say, so my wife and I've been married for almost 2 years to my wife, Elizabeth, and she grew up here in the area and we got married, moved up here to Cumming, and she got pregnant at the beginning of this year, and we went in for our 8-week appointment, and it was all good. And we went in for the 12-week appointment. And I remember this is the day after we had a big stew cooking where we had like almost 100 people over to our house, because I just like throwing parties and like hanging out with a lot of people. Drives my wife crazy sometimes, but I love people and love hanging out with people. But we went to this. I remember it was right after that. It was a Tuesday. I left Bible study. We went to this appointment, and we did the ultrasound. And looking back now, I kind of realized that the ultrasound tech knew there was something wrong, but they didn't say anything. And then they bring us out, bring us back in. We're in the room, and the doctor comes in and basically says, just I got some really bad news for y'all. And that's that your child, we didn't know if it was a boy or girl at this time, but that's that your child has a condition that's, as they would say, not viable with life. Basically meaning that our son's not expected to live outside of the womb. And that's when we then, he explained that our baby had what's called anencephaly and acrania, which is basically, it is a neural tube defect. So very, very early, because this is still at 12 weeks, so it's pretty early in the pregnancy. But I don't remember the exact time frame when the neural tube finishes forming, but it's maybe at like 4 weeks or 6 weeks. It's very early, but it's basically like the spine and brainstem, and it just doesn't form right. And it's not a genetic thing. It's not like a you did this wrong thing. It happens. And I guess the one way we look at that's positive is that the chance of it happening again or affecting our ability to have children in the future is basically zero. So that's good. Yeah, he basically said, your child's condition is not compatible with life, and it has anencephaly and acrania. And then one thing too that was just hard is that he said, this is I don't remember his exact phrasing, but basically saying that you could terminate your child. Because Georgia passed the heartbeat legislation that banned abortion, but there are still some exceptions, and one of those is that if your child has a condition that's not compatible with life, you can basically choose to end their life. And the fortunate thing with my wife and I is we're on the same page. We believe the same thing. So like there was no decision there. We knew we're going to love this kid. And basically anencephaly or acrania, the combo of those. Anencephaly means that the child's skull is not developing properly, and then acrania means their brain's not developing properly, which is typically caused by the anencephaly because essentially the skull's not there. So your baby's brain is exposed to the amniotic fluid and that kind of thing and just doesn't develop right. So we, of course, I mean, getting this news was brutal. I mean, we were kind of in shock and crying and just didn't know how to handle it. But kind of right off the bat, like we knew, like, all right, like we're gonna love this child, whether it's a boy or girl. We didn't have a name or anything at that point, and like, we're gonna celebrate them and love them. And at first, they said like there's maybe a 50% chance your child will survive the first term and different things like that. And we just said, well, let's start celebrating and celebrating this child however we can. So even like before the doctors can typically do it, Elizabeth did a blood test that would basically like tell the gender. And so that's where we found out that we were having a boy. And we threw a baby shower at our church, which is awesome. Kirk was there, and
it was amazing.
Yeah,
amazing baby shower.
And man, it was amazing for us just to see all the people that came to love on us and celebrate our son. And that's what we decided. His name is Nathaniel Isaac Crawford, and he his due date is October 2nd, but my wife she has a C-section scheduled for September 15th. So as long as Nathaniel continues to develop and grow, which he is now, I mean, we had an ultrasound yesterday and like his heartbeat's good, his kidneys, stomach, everything's going well. But yeah, we got to do that was kind of one of the first things as we did this baby shower, and I mean, we probably had almost 100 people there. Just celebrating Nathaniel and his life. And, it's, of course, a really hard situation to go through. And, it's incredibly hard for me as a man. And I just still can't quite grasp how difficult it is for my wife because she's the one carrying Nathaniel. And, especially that first like 15 weeks of pregnancy, she was sick all the time and feeling horrible and everything smells bad and she wants to eat nothing but bagels, and she goes through all that tough stuff. And that's something we talk a lot about because it's like I just still can't quite grasp how difficult it is for my wife. But going through all this and just seeing my wife's attitude towards it has been amazing. And that's where when we go through these difficult times, I mean, there's kind of a lot of things that like would make this even more difficult. I mean, for one, it's our first child ever. So that, and we're, I guess, still considered newly married. We'll be married this September 4th. We'll be married for 2 years. So, especially going through these kind of situations can be incredibly
strain.
Yeah, so much. And that's where we've been so blessed. And I mean, one thing we've been praying from the start and asking our friends to pray for is that this would draw us closer to Jesus and closer to each other. And I feel like it has. And it's, looking at this situation and how hard it is, there's nobody that I would, rather have to deal with this than my wife. And so I'm so blessed and fortunate that I met her. Well, really, she met me. She listened to a podcast that I was on about 5 years ago, then DM'd me on Instagram and said we should hang out. Now we're married.
Well, she didn't do any like, dude, you're crazy. What are you thinking?
She said, you sound interesting.
Yeah, we'll talk offline there and see which one it was, because there's a couple that you could get as interesting, and a couple that, like, man, where does he live so we can barricade him around his house, right?
Yeah.
But so the thing that was really, and I want to say impressed isn't the word. Motivated, encouraged. When you look at something, you get the first vibe is impressed.
Mm-hmm.
But really, when you look back, it was at the baby shower, but because it was how your family had come around, not just you and not just your wife, but truly together, right?
Yeah.
This and supported your family.
Mm-hmm.
And the way that you have celebrated the child from conception is, before the camera started rolling and we were just sitting talking, catching up, is like my children. Yes, when we got pregnant, it was like, oh, hey, we're pregnant. You had, you celebrated, right? But not really until the child was born did I celebrate the birth. And really. And I've watched you and your wife celebrate from conception forward. Father's Day.
Yeah.
Right? Your post with you and her, you were sitting on a dock somewhere.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, we got to go.
It was a great post, man. But
go do some slalom skiing. And my dad was very excited because this is also the first grandchild on either side of our family. And, it's tough on our parents too. I mean, we're both blessed that we have incredible parents and family around us. And, but that's what my dad was excited to be out there on Father's Day too, first time slalom skiing with his future grandson. And so, we definitely take every opportunity to do, everything we can.
And to celebrate him as your son now. And it's like, it's a confirmation of faith, confirmation of your belief, but also too, man, what a way to honor your wife and your child, because it's, it's not just you in this.
Yeah.
She's there with you and your son. What do you think that you've learned through this process about yourself or your faith, or just how to love and be emotionally available for your wife? What are a couple things you think your biggest takeaways?
Yeah. So, I mean, one thing I would say that I kind of mentioned earlier is like just taking our health and our children's health for granted. I mean, I think everybody kind of does that until something bad happens. But I'm just so thankful that, for instance, we were able to get pregnant easily, and that we're, going to be able to have future children. And I have friends struggling with infertility and just really difficult things like that, they couldn't imagine being in this situation because they don't think they're ever going to be able to even conceive a child. And, I'm also, one thing I'm so thankful for is that we get to protect Nathaniel, because like I said, with the laws in Georgia, we've been very blessed and fortunate that abortion has been outlawed. But there's a lot of children that when their parents get these kind of diagnoses, they choose to end their life. And so that's one thing that, you kind of think about protecting your children, like your kids now that are older, do you do anything to protect them? And that's one thing I think about, is that even though Nathaniel's still in the womb, we're able to offer him that safe place and protect him, and look out for him and be there for him. And I mean, I would say like faith as a whole. I mean, when, it's like I've believed in Jesus for a long time, and I've relied on him in a lot of what I thought to be difficult things. And, before I got this news, there's plenty of things I could have said, oh, this was when my life was cattywampus, or I had this issue. But of course, this kind of is way worse than anything else I've ever done. But just going through this and realizing that like Jesus is the answer, and the relationship with Jesus and faith in Jesus is the only way that I think you can handle this kind of thing in a healthy manner. I mean, I honestly have no idea how people can go through this kind of loss and difficult things without a relationship with Jesus, because that relationship in Jesus and knowing that he's wrapping our arms around us and comforting and supporting us definitely, makes, I guess, things more bearable.
As it relates to your wife,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's all the moment you were talking about, where what she's eating, she's pregnant and carrying your child.
Yeah.
Right. That's the same, and what you all dream of and wish for is a healthy child is what she wakes up with, front of mind, and what she goes to sleep with. The last thought. But I mean, she's carrying a child. She's carrying a child.
And I would say that's where she's already just like been an amazing mother. I mean, she spends so much time thinking of every little detail and every little thing. I mean, we were sitting in bed last night and she was looking for probably like 30 minutes to try to find the perfect stuffed animal to get for Nathaniel. Because when he's born, we want to like do a lot of the things that you would do with your child. So like I think we're planning to have a birthday cake for him because that'll be his birthday, and we're gonna have our pastor baptize him and just different things like that. And we want him to have a stuffed animal and a bunch of cute different pairs of pajamas and all that stuff. And so it's really been amazing to see just how my wife has so quickly stepped into that role as a mother and how good she is at it, because it's kind of crazy. I mean, I would assume everybody experiences a similar thing when your wife's pregnant, you have your first child, you go from like dating somebody and young, and then suddenly, you're thinking, wow, I want to marry this person. And then you're married, and then suddenly they're pregnant. And even though it's planned, you're still like, oh my gosh, like we have a kid on the way, like, wow. And, just to, you don't really know how that's all going to work. And it's like, I feel like until you are in that situation, nobody can really explain all those feelings. But that's where just having the opportunity to love on my wife as she goes through these things has been really great. And that's where just seeing what a great mother she is and how hard she's working as a mother now to take care of Nathaniel is pretty amazing, even in just, everything from what she eats to vitamins and exercising and like just all the different things she's thinking of is really amazing.
That is, I couldn't, the empathy and the emotional tie to be present for my wife when she's just pregnant. I mean, we've got 3 kids, so the emotional need is already, it's there to begin with. This is what we're called to. What it's what we chose. Then when you get pregnant, it turns it up, because she wants that bagel and she wants it now. It's like, okay, it's like, this bagel's the wrong one. You got the wrong one at the store. I'm like, what do you mean? It's like, you got the wrong bagel. So you got those, but then you got a whole nother layer on top of it. And man, so I'm trying to put myself in that, in your seat, literally sitting there thinking, what would I do? How would I do that? Because you're going through the same thing, right? But we got on the full armor of God. And then we got to be there for our bride. Right. Absolutely. And for your son. And this, man, I really, watching through your Father's Day post was like, man, the dude's not just saying it. Like, he is celebrating every opportunity because his child is alive. He has a son. He's just not born yet. He's still in the womb, but he has a son. And this is his name. It's pretty powerful, man. It really is. What I've only been around your dad one time. Okay. But just seeing it, the mixture there at the baby shower. What's something that he shared with you that you've clung, that either maybe it's not something that you needed to do or something you needed to write, but something you needed to hear from your earthly father, like that.
I mean, gosh, let me think. So, I mean, as a whole, I've an amazing father and mother too. But I've been close with my dad and love him so much. And I mean, I would say just all the years growing up and seeing his unwavering faith in Jesus, as he's dealt with difficult things, losing his parents and different things like that. And just seeing like his whole life, how strongly he has stayed committed to Jesus and how hard he works at that. So my dad, for I think like since college, has read through the whole Bible every single year. And he was, I think, graduated from UJ in like the 80s. So that's a lot of Bibles he's read through. And then on the past like 4 or 5 years, he's said a lot that like the one thing he realizes that he wish he could have done over the course of his life is read his Bible more. And my dad's a successful businessman and, has done a lot. And I just think that's so neat because there's a lot of people that are his age, getting kind of close to retirement. And they're thinking about all these other different things. And the one thing my dad just drills into all of us boys and everybody. If you go hang out with him for long enough, he's Kirk. How often do you read your Bible?
Yeah.
How much you read in your Bible? Yeah. And if you tell him not that often, then he'd say, let's start with John 1.
Yeah.
Read one chapter a day with me. And he'll text you and he'll say, Kirk, you read John 3 today?
Yeah.
And I mean, he's doing that with, I don't even know how many people right now. He's, just encouraging people to read the Bible. And I think like, in a lot of ways, like there's all sorts of, you can write books on how to counsel people on grief and how to help people and a lot of different things. But man, just seeing his fervor for the Lord and reading his Bible has just been an inspiration to me. And it's encouraged me to read my Bible a whole lot more. And I last year, for the first year, like in 1 year, read through the whole Bible. And that was really awesome. And it was actually a Bible he had read through that he then gave to me. And I've been reading my Bible a lot this year. And just kind of that example that he'd set for me, and the example of how well he's loved my mom. I'm 29, so I've been around my parents for 29 years. And I've never once seen my dad raise his voice at my mom. And I've always seen him go above and beyond to love her well and take the best care of her. And, so my mom and I are very similar. We could go to a party every night, be out till midnight every night, then go wake up and go to breakfast with more people. My dad, he likes to go to bed by about 9:15. And, but he's with my mom all the time. She wants to stay to the very end of a wedding. He's there, and just, there's things he doesn't want to do, but he always doesn't hesitate. And that's even been like an example to me of just how I need to be better about that in my marriage. Because I'm a pretty stubborn person. And so there's definitely times my wife wants to do something and I'm like, I don't want to do that. And, I might not just straight up tell her, no, I'm not doing that, because like I feel like I can't say no to my wife. But I'm like, how many different ways can I say no without saying no?
Yeah.
And I realized like I shouldn't be doing that. I should just, say yes and do it. And that's what my dad set such a great example of that, of always just saying yes and loving my mother so well.
That's awesome. What are some daily disciplines, some double Ds? What are 2 or 3 things that you're doing every day to navigate the storm that you're in?
Yeah, so pretty much every day I get up, I go to the gym at 6 a.m. I go to this place, Cumming Strength and Fitness, which is a CrossFit gym in Cumming. And that has been just another like huge, just awesome part of everything we're going through. It's, there's a ton of believers at that gym, and it's just such a great community of people that have wrapped their arms around myself and Elizabeth. But anyway, so I do that pretty much every morning at 6. And part of that, for one, like I said, I love community, being around people. So that's like a great thing for me in the mornings, to go be energized and talk to people, see friends, but also just physical fitness and being in shape. I think that's like I think for one, the Bible's very clear that we should treat our bodies as temples and stay in shape. But I also think just from like a mental focus perspective, that helps a ton. Just burning up some of that energy.
Yep.
And whether it's dealing with, stuff I deal with day-to-day work, or, just the tough things we're dealing with Nathaniel, I think just starting the day with some physical activity is always good. And then I am not always like 100% perfect on this, but typically what I try to do when I get home is I make myself a smoothie, some coffee, and then I read my Bible. And right now I haven't really been on like a specific track of certain things I'm reading. It kind of bounces around a lot. But that's been good. Just always being that habit of reading my Bible. And I mean, I feel like just every time there's something that'll stick out or provide some encouragement. And then I would say kind of another, I guess, daily or regular thing, I guess, just going back to that community is just working to build a strong community of believers around me. And those people come from, my church, my gym, hunting buddies, all different places. And, there's, of course, we could talk about all different stories in the Bible, whether it's, iron sharpening iron or the bundle of sticks is harder to break than the single stick. I didn't quite get that verse right, but I got the idea. And that's one thing that I started right after we moved to Cumming. Within like 2 weeks of being back from our honeymoon, I started a Tuesday morning Bible study. And I didn't really know anybody up here. Right. And now we've got like 5 or 6 different guys that have been coming to that for 2 years. And so just every day, like focused on building a community of godly people around you.
What's amazing, man, is you just said the 3 things that you said. We were talking about it in between last week and this one. Is most of the guys that we're having sit here. When you get some more ladies, because I think it's going to be common there as well, is a tribe, fitness, and spirituality.
Yeah.
Right? And it's everybody's saying a little different, and it's there. But so as we land the plane here, if you look in this camera, for the mother or the father that is facing what y'all are going through, this being given that opportunity to take it into their own hands rather than continue to lend back and put it in God's hands and put it across. Like, how to navigate through this? What would you want to leave them with? So if they watch this, they find what you have found.
Yeah, I would say that the joy of a child, it starts before they're born. And Nathaniel has brought me so much joy, even though I haven't met him, or haven't met him in person. I've talked to him. I've felt him. He started kicking, so I can like hold my wife's belly and feel him. And I've seen him through all these. There's all these fancy like 4D scans and different things you can do now. And the joy that child would bring you is just something I can't describe. And I want to do everything I can to protect him at all costs. And I'm able to do that through my relationship with Jesus that provides me the strength I need to go through really hard things like this.
Amen. Well, I am beyond honored that you're willing to share this because you're in the thick of it right now. I'm continuing to pray for you and your family and your wife, but for Nathaniel by name, and it's humbling to see. And a lot of people say something, but they just don't do what they say. And man, so thank you for sharing.
Absolutely.
This with it. It is a great example for folks of how you can navigate through some of the most challenging times of your life. So thank you.
Absolutely.
Please tell your wife thank you for allowing you to share something so personal to both of y'all right now. So
absolutely.
Thank you. Check back next week for another great Cattywampus podcast. Please share this with someone that you think needs to hear it.